What if I told you there is a treasure so vast it has compelled men to sacrifice everything, their fortunes, their sanity, and even their lives? On a tiny, unremarkable 140-acre island off the coast of North America, a mystery has been digging its roots for over 220 years. It is a mystery protected by genius-level engineering, fueled by cryptic clues, and guarded by a deadly curse. 6 men have already died seeking what lies beneath its soil. A chilling prophecy, whispered for generations, states that 7 must die before the island reveals its secret. This isn't the Hollywood movie. This is the true, unsolved story of the Oak Island Money Pit. And the world is still waiting for the 7th victim. Hey everyone, and welcome to TSF History. We are the channel that digs up the past to uncover the most incredible, shocking, and forgotten stories. If you love solving history's greatest mysteries as much as we do, then do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell. You don't want to miss a single expedition into the unknown. Now, grab your shovel and a lantern. We're heading to a place that refuses to give up its dead or its treasure. Our story begins not with kings or armies, but with a teenage boy. The year is 1795. A young man named Daniel McGinnis is wandering Oak Island, a small, densely wooded piece of land in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. The island is quiet, uninhabited, but on this day, Daniel finds something that shouldn't be there. In a small clearing, he sees a circular depression in the ground, about 13 feet across. But what makes his blood run cold is what's directly above it. Hanging from the sawed-off limb of a massive, ancient oak tree is a ship's tackle block, a heavy-duty pulley clearly used for lowering and lifting immense weight. This wasn't natural. This was a construction site. McGinnis, filled with visions of pirate gold, this was the era of Captain Kidd and Blackbeard after all, rushed to get his friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan. The 3 boys returned, armed with picks and shovels, and began to dig. What they found would change their lives and the course of history for this tiny island. Just 2 feet down, their shovels hit solid rock. They cleared the dirt to find a layer of meticulously laid flagstones. Below the stones was just more earth. They kept digging. At 10 feet deep, their shovels hit something else. Wood. It wasn't a chest. It was a platform of heavy oak logs fitted tightly together, spanning the entire width of the pit. They were embedded in the clay walls. They looked at each other. This was no simple buried chest. This was a vault. With immense effort, they pried the logs out and continued digging. At 20 feet, they hit another platform of oak logs, and again at 30 feet. This was beyond the capabilities of 3 teenagers. Defeated by the scale of the project, they abandoned their dig, but the story had just begun. The legend of the Money Pit was born. Years passed, the boys became men. In 1803, they returned, this time with financial backing. They formed the Onslow Company, bringing proper equipment to finish the job. The excavation resumed. They tore past the 30-foot level. At 40 feet, another oak platform. At 50 feet, another. At 60, 70, and 80 feet, they found the same thing. Massive log platforms sealing the shaft every 10 feet. The sheer labor involved was staggering. Who would do this, and why? Then, at 90 feet deep, they found something different. It wasn't just logs. They hit a large flat stone, about 3 feet long and 1 foot wide, and it had markings. The stone was covered in a bizarre cryptic inscription, a series of symbols that no one could understand. This, the 90-foot stone, became one of the most tantalizing and controversial clues in the entire mystery. Local scholars and amateur cryptographers tried to decipher it. Years later, one alleged translation emerged, a translation that would light a fire of obsession that burns to this day. The message supposedly read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds lie buried. 2 million pounds. In the early 1800s, this was a king's ransom. It was one of the largest fortunes on Earth. They were 90 feet down. The treasure was supposedly at 130 feet. They were close. The crew, electrified, dug past the 90-foot stone. At 98 feet, their shovels hit wood again. But this time, it felt different. It felt like a chest. They were exhausted and it was late. They decided to rest and retrieve their prize in the morning. The next day, they returned to the site, ready to become the richest men in the New World. Instead, they found a nightmare. The money pit was full of water. It had flooded overnight, filled to the 60-foot level. They tried to bail it out. It was useless. As fast as they removed the water, it refilled, held steady at that 60-foot mark by an unseen source. They had hit the trap. The creators of the pit hadn't just buried their treasure, they had protected it with a work of hydraulic engineering that was centuries ahead of its time. The Onslow Company went bankrupt trying to fight the water. But the secret was out. The island had a treasure, and it was trapped. The 19th century became a graveyard of failed attempts. In 1849, the Truro Company was formed. They brought steam-powered pumps and a newfangled horse-powered auger to drill core samples. They re-excavated the pit to 86 feet, where the water stopped them. So they began to drill. The auger punched through the wooden platform at 98 feet, the one the first crew thought was a chest. Then it dropped into a 12-foot void. Then it hit another layer of wood. Then it drilled through something incredible. 4 inches of metal in pieces. The auger went deeper. It passed through 8 inches of oak, then 22 inches of more metal, then 4 inches of oak, and then 22 feet of loose metal. The men were ecstatic. They weren't just drilling into a chest. They were drilling through stacks of chests, likely filled with gold coins. When they pulled the auger up, they found something that confirmed their hopes. Stuck to the drill bit were 3 tiny links of an ancient gold chain. They now had physical proof, but the water remained. How was it getting in? The Truro Company decided to investigate the beaches. At a spot called Smith's Cove, they made a discovery that was even more shocking than the money pit itself. The beach wasn't natural. As they dug, they found layers of coconut fiber, charcoal, and beach stones. Coconut fiber. Coconuts do not grow in Nova Scotia. This fiber, used as packing and filtering material, came from the tropics. It had been imported. Beneath this artificial filtration system, they found it. 5 perfectly constructed fan-shaped rock drains, all converging on a single large tunnel. This tunnel pointed directly inland, straight toward the money pit, 150 yards away. This was the booby trap. The creators had built a massive artificial beach to filter seawater and channel it into a flood tunnel. The moment any digger passed the 90-foot mark, they would breach this tunnel, and the Atlantic Ocean itself would rush in to protect the vault. The scale of this project was mind-boggling. It would have taken hundreds of men, perhaps years, to build. This wasn't pirates. This was an army. The Truro Company, in a desperate attempt, tried to build a dam to hold back the sea. A storm obliterated it. They tried to dig a new shaft to intercept the treasure from below. The water broke through and the new shaft flooded too. The company collapsed, penniless. And that's when the island began to demand its price in blood. In 1861, with a new group called the Oak Island Association, a steam-powered pump was brought in to finally defeat the water. The pump's boiler exploded. One man was horribly scalded and died from his injuries. He was the first. The 19th century ended in failure. Then, in 1897, another group tried.
A man named Maynard Kaiser was being hauled out of one of the many shafts. The rope snapped. He plunged to his death. He was the second. The legend of the curse was born. 7 must die. The 20th century brought new hunters. A young Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the future president of the United States, was part of a syndicate that hunted for the treasure. He remained obsessed with the island his entire life. But the island's defenses held, and its curse was not finished. The darkest day in Oak Island's history came in 1965. A determined searcher named Robert Restall, his wife, and his 2 sons had moved onto the island. They were all in. On August 17th, Robert Restall was working in a 27-foot shaft trying to seal one of the flood tunnels. He suddenly pitched forward and fell silent into the watery sludge at the bottom. His 18-year-old son, Bobby, saw him fall and scrambled down the ladder to help. As he reached the bottom, he too collapsed. 2 workers nearby, Carl Gracer and Cyril Hiltz, rushed to the scene. They climbed down into the shaft to save the Restalls. Both were overcome and collapsed on top of the father and son. A tourist visiting the site, Edward White, was lowered by a rope and managed to tie it around one of the men before he too almost passed out. He was pulled up barely alive. 4 men, Robert Restall, his son Bobby, Carl Gracer, and Cyril Hiltz, all dead within minutes. They hadn't drowned. They had been poisoned. The shafts, stagnant and filled with decaying organic matter, had become filled with deadly hydrogen sulfide gas. 4 men died in one afternoon. The island's grim toll had now reached 6. 6 lives taken. The prophecy was one death away from fulfillment. For years, no one dared touch the money pit. The treasure, whatever it was clearly not worth the price. Until now. Enter Rick and Marty Legina, 2 brothers from Michigan who, like so many, had been captivated by the mystery since they were boys. In 2006, they and their partners purchased most of the island. Unlike the hunters before them, they brought 21st century technology, heavy machinery, seismic scanning, sonar, and a determination that bordered on obsession. And they began to find things the others had missed. At Smith's Cove, they built a massive billion-dollar-style cofferdam, finally holding back the ocean. When they pumped the water out, they found the 18th century flood tunnel system, just as the legends described. But they also found a mysterious U-shaped structure, massive timbers, and signs of a 15th century wharf. They drained the island's triangular swamp, a place most had ignored. They found what looked like an ancient paved road made of boulders. In the money pit area, they drilled. Their core samples pulled up human bone. Not just 1, but 2 sets. Carbon dating was shocking. 1 set was European, from the 1600s. The other was Middle Eastern, from the 1300s. Middle Eastern bones centuries before the money pit was discovered? And then, their metal detectors sweeping the island found the most tantalizing clue of all, a small, crude lead cross. Analysis by experts dated it. It wasn't from the 1700s. It wasn't even from the 1600s. It was between 1200 and 1400 AD. A Templar-style cross from the Middle Ages on a remote island in North America. This changed everything. The theories exploded. Who built the money pit, and what are they protecting? Theory 1, pirate treasure. The simplest answer. Captain Kidd on his way to Boston before his arrest, or even the infamous Blackbeard. But could a pirate crew really have built a hydraulic trap that has baffled engineers for centuries? It seems unlikely. Theory 2. Marie Antoinette's lost jewels. As the French Revolution consumed Paris, legend says the Queen's lady-in-waiting fled with the crown jewels, smuggling them to Nova Scotia for safekeeping, where they were buried on Oak Island. Theory 3. The Knights Templar. This is the one that gives historians chills. The lead cross, the Middle Eastern bones. The theory is this. When the Knights Templar were outlawed in 1307, they fled Europe with their vast, unimaginable treasure. This treasure wasn't just gold. It was rumored to be the greatest relics of Christianity, the Holy Grail, or perhaps even the Ark of the Covenant. They fled to Scotland and from there sailed to New Scotland, Nova Scotia, and used their military engineering skills to build the ultimate unbreachable vault. Is the money pit a Templar bank? Or is there a final, darker theory that there is no treasure at all? That the money pit was a natural sinkhole? That the log platforms were just trees that had fallen in over centuries? That the 90-foot stone was a hoax? That the coconut fiber was just wreckage from a ship? That for 200 years men have been dying and going broke chasing a ghost, a collective madness fueled by treasure fever. But that doesn't explain the flood tunnels. It doesn't explain the gold chain. It doesn't explain the human bones, and it doesn't explain the cross. Today, Rick and Marty Legina are still digging. They are keenly aware of the prophecy. They are searching for the ultimate treasure, knowing full well that the island still demands one more life. Is Oak Island the site of the world's greatest hidden treasure? Or is it the world's most elaborate and deadliest tomb? A monument to human greed, or a vault built by masters of history? After 2 centuries, the island holds its secrets tight. But for how long? What do you think is buried on Oak Island? Is it the Templars' Holy Grail? Marie Antoinette's jewels? Or is it all just a 200-year-old sinkhole? Let us know your best theory in the comments section below. We read every one. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, and if you want to help us solve more of history's greatest mysteries, please hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and make sure you are subscribed to TSF History. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next investigation.